Hi, and welcome to my presentation for Assignment 2, Part B, Reflecting on Practical Teacher Knowledge. In this presentation, I will be taking you through my reflections during my professional placement and the new learnings that I discovered that came about by utilising the professional learning cycle alongside the reflection cycle, and how these were both used before, during, and after my professional placement. Thank you. For my practicum, I was allocated a position at a state school in a 2-3 composite class located in a small western rural town. The class had 24 students that were made up from a mixture of socio-economic backgrounds and cultures, including Indigenous and Asian students. There was a range of academic abilities from very low to high across all key learning areas, and there were 2 students verified, one being ADHD and the other ASD, and both students also had special provisions added to one school to cater for their needs. My teaching area was in health and physical education, and the movement strand only was the one I had to plan for. The HPE content descriptor I was to plan for was to perform fundamental movements in a variety of sequences. The fundamental movement was over and underarm throwing, and these were to be demonstrated by students through a variety of games and activities. A new learning straight away that appeared was having to plan for a composite class where the Year 2s were to perform the skill and the Year 3s were to refine and practice the skill. I used the professional learning cycle, which allowed me to have a plan to follow when planning, teaching and assessing my unit. This used with the reflection framework and aligned with questions outlined by Borton and Rolf's frameworks allowed me for deeper exploration into my practices. I used the framework of what, so what, now what to reflect on my practices. I collected an array of data from inside the classroom, constructing a whole class profile. This allowed me for insight into individual students, and it also gave me ideas on how to best plan for grouping students. The overarching aim of using the data was to inform my planning and also help me to improve student learnings. This was also through providing differentiation to the students as a whole. The new learnings that emerged for me was that data planning is an ongoing process and I need to develop skills on how to better use and analyse data to improve student outcomes. Also, for future practice, my goal is to work on knowing what data to collect that will assist me in planning and sequencing content to teach the students. For example, how to implement a pre-test so I have a better idea of where to begin my teaching. My rubric was made to align with my checklist that I use for pre and post testing. As the lessons were so busy, this proved to be an invaluable tool to capture student performance data over the course of the unit. I created my own rubric using accessible elements from the taught concepts and used the standard elaborations from the QCAA to help differentiate the achievement standards. The new learnings is I need experience in all learning areas to create assessment tasks that are valid, clear and fair. This would provide inclusive assessment pieces where all students would be able to demonstrate their understandings of their learning intentions. I had no prior knowledge of student skills, so I planned my unit starting with the basic step-by-step instruction leading into these skills in different contexts, being a range of activities and games. I found adjusting my planning to better suit the needs of the learners by using different teaching strategies and choosing appropriate games suited the class dynamics. New learnings that came from this is teaching is a fluent practice that is ever changing and evolving to better both teaching practices and improve student learning. For future practices, I need to be better equipped to change and adapt lessons and teaching by building on my teaching pedagogies and content skills of what I will be teaching. Through moderation, I found my assessment piece suited the summative task as it had all the teaching elements included that showed performances against the chosen content descriptor. I made a simplistic rubric that was user-friendly. Again, my checklist was used when creating my rubric. I could easily justify my judgments against the rubric as it used step-by-step skill progression. New learnings is I have a basic understanding of moderation. In future practices, I would like to be a part of moderation sessions to get a sense of how the process goes and how judgments are negotiated within group settings. And also I'd like to see an array of students' work. The reflection cycle used was the questions what, so what, and now what, which I found was an invaluable tool in helping me to improve my students' outcomes. From being able to reflect and deconstruct my practices, I was able to realise where change was needed. It also provided me with understanding why these changes were necessary and to predict what may come from these changes. Reflection helped me to gain a broader understanding of how the children learned. This reflection cycle has challenged me to adjust my practices while using feedback from the students to better student learning and again make changes in my practices to suit the learning styles. Some achievements that came from reflecting was I created a better inclusive environment, I created better engaging and fun lessons, I built better relationships with my students, I reflected and adapted teaching pedagogies where needed, I deepened the student learning that was through engagement, I maximised student learning outcomes, and the new learning I found was to provide consistent feedback is a powerful tool to enhance teaching and learning. This is a graph I made of my 3 students' learning journey. I colour-coded it so I could clearly see their growth in each area. This also helped justify my marking, and it showed where my teaching was impacting on student learning. Well-known theorist John Hattie has many high-impact strategies that impact on student learning. He has discovered the following: that teachers are far more likely to have a large and positive impact if they are passionate about helping their students learn. They forge strong relationships with their students, are clear about what they want their students to learn, adopt evidence-based teaching strategies, monitor their impact on students' learning, and adjust their approaches accordingly, and actively seek to improve their own teaching. This, I believe, is the factors I also base my teaching philosophy around. My future practice will take into account the need to critically reflect my practices more regularly and finding ways to incorporate this into my practices. I now have a better appreciation of the importance of data collection and will work on upskilling myself to approach this more effectively. From here, I hope to begin to uncover more beliefs and values that will strengthen my teaching philosophy and help me to become a great teacher. Thank you.